Aloha and welcome to Java. This is for Thursday, December 14th, 2023. A lot happened yesterday with Jerome Powell speaking, basically sending a buy signal across the markets. So the MMRI has dropped completely down from 270 area, now in the 250 area. Relative strength of the dollar and rates both plummeting. So now the dollar relative strength very weak. Inflation will be coming back. We've got the 10-year below 4%. So we've got markets going in the green. The volatility index, our fear gauge, is down. So we're back in the severe greed area. Futures are green. And I don't normally post this one, but this is the rates of other countries for their 10-year bonds. All of them dropped because for the most part, whatever the Federal Reserve does, the Western nations have to stay in lockstep. Otherwise, it will throw their currency off. And there is one that is actually doing that, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So the European Central Bank and Bank of England are expected to follow with the Fed, keeping their rates steady, and that's why their rates dropped as well. So I really dislike this term. They're talking about if the Fed can finally lose its cautious tone and deliver immaculate disinflation. So when they talk about that, I don't know. Don't like that anyway. The immaculate disinflation. We've got more job losses that are going to be coming. This is massively inflationary for prices and on the larger scale. How does this work? So after he spoke, you can tell exactly what time he came on, right about 2 p.m. As soon as they made their decision and announced, the markets went crazy. This is a spy in case you're not a trader. But just to show the price, basically, of all other assets will follow this basic pattern. So as I said, European Central Bank and Bank of England decisions today. In an odd one, Norway hiked. So any of the currency traders out there know that the Norwegian kroner basically probably spiked yesterday because that gave them a lot of value with their currency. So for our calendar, we are expecting core retail sales before the market open, along with jobless claims. These are not going to matter as much anymore. People are still going to buy. So unless these are going to be crushingly outside of what they had expected, I don't expect a lot of movement in the market. Everybody's on a high right now, and just that greed is kicking in. So markets move by two things, greed and fear. Fear is stronger. So if some numbers are severely off or something happens, fear will happen all of a sudden. And that's when we're not going to be getting any type of immaculate disinflation. It will be sudden and severe. So, summary of their decision, they left the rates unchanged. He was talking about how the economy has slowed since the third quarter and that they are going to see interest rate cuts in 2024, probably 3. The market right now is pricing in 5 to 6 rate cuts. They are talking about 4.1% unemployment by the end of next year. Unless they're fudged numbers, that's not nearly enough. More companies are rolling out with proposed job losses in company cuts. So I expect that to be more than double that increase. We'll see what happens. Fed sees our GDP growth at 2.6% for this year and 1.4 in 2024. So these are interesting. As I said, market is pricing in double the rate cuts than what the Fed is projecting. So this, of course, affected the dollar. It's going to be weaker. Argentina just cut theirs in half. We are probably going to have to do something similar at some point in time. It's at a 4-month low. And this is the Norwegian kroner because they hiked to protect their currency. You have to either sacrifice your currency or your economy, basically. So this is a different story, just talking about different assets if you need to get out of the dollar because it's a dying asset. More firms are set to add Bitcoin to balance sheets after a major rule change. What they're getting at basically is now they are allowed to add higher risk, quote unquote, higher risk assets. To me, the dollar is a high risk asset, but they are allowed to keep up to 2% in their portfolios. that's extremely bullish for cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular. So, and I don't encourage you to trade Bitcoin until you have an understanding or at least research a little bit about how to buy it. Maybe I'll put something in for tomorrow, something soon in case there's questions, but you can reach out to me now if you would like. So on with banks and energy. We've got central banks are plotting a crypto invasion. Well, basically, this is this other story following in. From January 1st, 2025, they're set to hold up to 2% of their reserves in cryptocurrencies as well. So central banks across the world, and this is from Bank of International Settlements. So if every central bank adds 2% of their reserves in this, that's massively, well, inflationary. The price will go up. So onto oil, more real assets. World oil demand has been crushed lately, but they are talking about it set to rise next year faster than expected. And then also it's already beginning to rise because United States has an inventory draw, and also because the dollar is weaker, it just can't purchase as much as it used to. So on real estate, this is a slight different story here. Meet your new landlord, because they're allowing now companies like Google, Tesla, and Meta, and Disney. They're building company housing towns. Disney now has one going in North Carolina that they had just announced that they will start building, and for their employees, creating these kind of Disneyland areas, since no one can afford to buy real estate anymore or their homes. So on to a slightly larger scale, NATO has announced major spending increase. Well, this is severely major. They're talking about their budgets for 2024 boosted between 12 and 30%. They're talking about NATO Security Investment Program. We'll see a 30% annual increase to $1.4 billion next year. 30% increase. So my question to you, put your answer in the comments below if you would, or think about this if you don't know it. Where do they make their money? Where will this money come from? How is it paid? NATO basically is the United States plus a few nations. And every time there is call for money, purchases, or otherwise, think about where that comes from. They also came out that world trade suffering decline. So they're attributing this to geopolitical tensions, but really, this is kind of what's going on, because we've got this economy that's really suffering on multiple fronts now. Global trade contracting by 5%, 2023. So this is significant. Just things slowing down. When you mess with the markets too much, they're going to basically tell you the truth. So these are lava updates. Pretty much my opinion are just points of interest. So if you don't like my point of view, you're welcome to your own. However, I would like to just put some things out here to kind of spur some thought. On the migration issue, Russia basically does not have a migration issue like the rest of the world is doing. And I believe a large part of that is their stance on this, of course. So as everybody else is opening their doors and their identity is getting not assimilated, but overtaken. So what do I mean by that? All of the immigrants that are coming in are not learning the culture. They are not learning the language. So they are basically wiping out the culture, trying to bring their own to a new place, which has its own issues. But Russia opening a new language center in Africa. So rather than doing direct migration, they're bringing their culture to other countries and sharing, and they are opening their trade. So this is a good way, this is Malayan in this particular instance, but spreading their culture in a different way. And I think China has been doing that for some time as well. And we need to really pay attention to this, in my opinion. So along with this, we have imported just a massive amount of migrants. And now they are talking about new control measures. So I am against any type of control. They're locking down freedoms faster than ever. And this is just, that could be a really big issue. Now, we've got all of these people that they have not background checked, they have no idea, and now they're taking away a major ability to protect yourself. So whether you like that in particular or not, they'll move on to any other form that you may still be able to have. Okay, so kind of last couple of stories tied in together. Dropbox is basically the file storage that comes along with Microsoft. It's free for a lot. And basically, they're sharing the data with ChatGPT. So if you store your files and you open ChatGPT, by default, this is open to use by third-party artificial intelligence. So any of your documents, your forms, or anything else will be immediately shared with OpenAI. Given everything else going on, you might want to be careful with that. So check into the third-party AI, the enabling, check it off so that they cannot. And then also with Congress, this is over FISA. So talking about federal spies to your local hotel and coffee shop, what they're doing is they're trying to require that any of these places that offer open Wi-Fi, open wireless connections, will have to configure their systems to ensure that they provide the government access to entire streams of communications. So they've got a lot of overreach going on. I'm going to leave a link in the description, but basically they have access to all of your information, anything that goes over these communications, and they store it with the NSA, National Security Administration. And so they are not using warrants, and they're able to purchase this information at this time. So then they can basically use this later on to condemn you or track you. So let's just be cautious of this. I want to bring that to your awareness for now. And I just want to urge you all, live, trade, and think outside of their system. And I plan to help you with that as much as I possibly can. So until I see you again, my friends, stay free.